There's an aircraft flying today that by almost every measure was never supposed to exist. Wasn't supposed to be built by Boeing. It wasn't supposed to survive the merger that nearly killed it. And it certainly wasn't supposed to still be in the air decades after the last one rolled off the production line. But here we are. This is the story of the Boeing 717, the plane that refuses to die. To understand why the 717 is so unusual, you have to go back to 1963. That's when Douglas Aircraft introduced the DC-9, a slender twin-engine regional jet with a design unlike anything flying at the time. Instead of mounting its engines under the wings, the DC-9 tucked them at the back of the fuselage, paired with a distinctive T-tail. It was elegant, efficient, and airlines loved it. Over 1,000 DC-9s were ordered, with 976 eventually delivered before production ended in 1982. The DC-9 evolved into the MD-80, then the MD-88, then the MD-90. McDonnell Douglas noticed something. Those jets were getting bigger. Airlines needed something smaller, something for the routes where demand was real but not enormous. So they went back to the drawing board and created the MD-95. And then Boeing showed up. In August 1997, Boeing acquired McDonnell Douglas, and most observers expected the MD-95 program to be quietly canceled. Boeing had its own jets, but Boeing decided to move forward under a new name. The MD-95 became the Boeing 717. It was a strange decision, and it was about to get stranger. The first order had actually been placed back in October 1995 by Value Jet Airlines, later rebranded as AirTran Airways. But beyond that early customer, the 717 had a serious problem. Nobody, and I mean nobody, seemed to want it. The 717 faced brutal competition from smaller regional jets, 50 and 70-seat aircraft that regional carriers could fly at lower operating costs. Meanwhile, larger carriers just went with the Boeing 737 or the Airbus A320 family for better economies of scale. The 717 was stuck in the middle. Too big for regional operators, too small for the majors, and Boeing, frankly, wasn't exactly championing it. Boeing stopped taking orders in 2003. The production line shut down in 2006. Total aircraft delivered 156 planes. For an aircraft program that lasted nearly a decade, that is a remarkably small number. The program ended, and with it, the final chapter of the legendary DC-9 family. It seemed like the story of the 717 was over. It was not. Here's where things get interesting. In 2013, Delta Airlines began leasing the entire fleet of 88 jets that had been operated by AirTran Airways from Southwest Airlines. Southwest had acquired AirTran, but had no interest in operating a second aircraft type alongside its all-737 fleet. For Delta, the 717 was a gift. These used jets allowed Delta to retire its aging DC-9s while being far cheaper to acquire than brand-new aircraft from Boeing or Airbus. Suddenly, the plane nobody wanted was exactly what one of America's largest airlines needed. Delta even became the only carrier in the world operating all DC-9 variants simultaneously. The DC-9, the MD-80, the MD-90, and the Boeing 717. A living museum of a single aircraft lineage, all under one roof. By the early 2020s, Delta had a plan. When the pandemic hit and air travel collapsed, Delta announced it would retire the entire 717 fleet by 2025, part of a broader effort to cut costs and simplify its operation. For this little jet that time forgot, the writing, it seemed, was finally on the wall. But the world had other ideas. As travel recovered more rapidly than anticipated, and as deliveries of new airliners continued to be delayed, the 717s were needed as much as ever. Delivery delays from Airbus, compounded by ongoing supply chain constraints affecting the entire aerospace industry, forced Delta to extend 717 operations well beyond the original target. The retirement deadline passed. The 717s kept flying. Then came the next twist. The aircraft chosen to replace the 717, the Airbus A220, turned out to have serious problems of its own. The A220 is powered exclusively by Pratt & Whitney's geared turbofan engine, and that engine has been at the center of one of aviation's biggest headaches in recent years. A manufacturing defect in the engine's powder metal components triggered a recall of approximately 1,200 engines, with shop visits that were initially estimated at 60 days stretching past 300, draining the global pool of spare turbofans. As of late 2025, roughly 17% of the global A220 fleet was parked or inactive due to these ongoing engine issues. Completed A220 airframes were sitting on the tarmac, fully built, ready to fly, with no engines available to put in them. For Delta, this was yet another reason to keep the old workhorse on the line. The delivery backlog stretched the retirement schedule for jets now around 25 years old, slowing the fleet renewal pace even as more of the smaller Airbus jets gradually arrived to take on the shorter regional routes. The 717, a jet designed in the 1980s, first flown in the 1990s, was still filling the gap because its modern replacement simply couldn't arrive fast enough. And now, there's one more chapter to add to this story. In May 2026, Boeing will officially end its manufacturer support for the 717, ceasing official parts and maintenance backing for the type. For most airlines, that would be the final nail in the coffin. When the manufacturer stops supporting an aircraft, the clock starts ticking loudly. But Delta isn't most airlines. Delta's in-house maintenance division, TechOps, has long enabled the carrier to sustain older aircraft that other airlines couldn't or wouldn't keep flying. Unlike American or United, which outsource most of their heavy maintenance, Delta has built the infrastructure to support its own fleet from the inside out. The end of Boeing's support? For Delta, it's a logistical challenge, not a death sentence. Once again, the 717 continues to find new life. So where does the 717 stand right now? As of early 2026, 99 Boeing 717s remain in service with just 2 airlines. Delta operates the lion's share, around 80 of them, flying domestic routes out of its Atlanta hub. Hawaiian Airlines keeps 19 short hopping around the islands. Delta announced a retirement deadline that came and went. Boeing has ended its support. The successor jet has engine problems. And yet, the 717 is still flying. It was never glamorous. It never had a blockbuster sales run. It came from a company that no longer exists, was adopted by a company that barely wanted it, and has been on the verge of retirement for years. And yet, there it is. Its service continues. The Boeing 717, the plane that simply refuses to die. If you've ever flown through Atlanta, there's a good chance you've seen one of these without even knowing it. Living in the metro Atlanta area, I see these aircraft come and go from Hartsfield-Jackson on a regular basis. A piece of aviation history, hiding in plain sight, operating right alongside the newest jets in the sky. But if you're on the west coast of the continental United States, you've likely never laid eyes on one. Delta rarely, if ever, flies the 717 out there. These aircraft live and work in the eastern half of the country, short hops between smaller cities, regional runs, the kind of flights that keep an aviation hub humming. Out west, the 717 is essentially a ghost. So if you ever find yourself at an eastern gate and you glance out the window and spot a rear-engined, T-tailed, narrow-body taxiing past, that's it. That's the one. The last of the DC-9 line, still earning its keep more than half a century after that original design first took to the skies. The legacy of the DC-9, born in 1963, has evolved through decades of aviation history. It's still very much alive and simply refuses to die. Thanks for joining us on this episode. If you love stories like this one, hit that like button and subscribe. We hope to see you again soon here on The Plane Window.